Hello friends, good afternoon. This is Sagar and we'll be dealing with the Hindu newspaper analysis as usual. Today is 11th of May 2018. So about me, Sagar B. Ashwath. I'm a tutor at UPSCIASSBI Academy. I'm faculty for Psychology, Indian Economy and Ethics. The quote for the day: happiness is when what you think, what you say and what you do are in harmony. That is, you think of something and you say something, and if you're doing what you have said and what you have thought, you will have happiness. So that's what Mahatma Gandhi ji has said. So in the front page, so we have this hectic campaign in a bitter note, and that's not required. It is completely political in nature. And then Mahathir stages a surprise comeback. This is about the Malaysian elections. And we will be talking about Malaysian elections in detail. We have an editorial on that. There's no problem with that. And then this is not required, political in nature. India is more than a two-player e-com market, and this is about the Flipkart and the Amazon deal, about which you have an editorial as well. Center changes tack in Restive Valley. So what has the center done in the recent past? What it's doing is, it is trying to, not cause the military to take a harder stance on those people who have joined the militants recently. So we do remember that Burhan Wani was recently killed by the military forces, and because of that, many young generations, many younger people have started to move towards the militants. So that would be really difficult in Jammu and Kashmir to handle. So the security forces have retaliated. So when they did retaliate, some of the younger people were caught and killed in the crossfire. So because of this, many younger people were joining the ranks of the militants. To stop this, the center is thinking of changing the tack. What it is doing is, instead of killing them, or so as to say, targeting them and shooting them down, what the center now is thinking is try to bring them back to the fold, arrest them, right, and also use certain measures whereby they will be brought into the mainstream, provide employment, right, so provide rehabilitation, so make things more simpler and less violent in the valley. So that's what the center is thinking to do with the security forces. And then you have Israel strikes Iran's intel sites in Syria. So this is something which is related to the Middle East. Israel and Iran have been long-term enemies, and recently the Trump administration has withdrawn from the Iran deal, which was signed only a few years back. Because of that, and also the Syrian issue, Israel, as we know, given the geopolitics of Middle East, they are on the opposite side. So because Iran is on the Syrian side and Israel on the other side, Iranian forces are supporting Bashar al-Assad, and Israel is on the opposite side. So probably for this reason, Israel is attacking the Iran's intel, and it has got a strong backing from the US administration as well, right? The more details are available in the lead, which we'll be talking about it later. And then fake encounters, this is not required, political in nature. It's a political statement. Qatar probe widens to meet with, not essential, right? And then we have the Nation page. Again here, not much to look out for. Don't make Santanam support public until further orders not required. And then 70% of Ganga will be cleaned by May 2019. This is important. Just have a look into Namami Gange project, or Ganga rejuvenation project, right? Just look into the scheme, okay? And then not required, right? So none of these are required. From the national page, not much to look out for. And then you have the online retail flip. This is about the Flipkart and the Walmart deal, which was signed recently. There is a negative fallout of this, and there are some fears expressed by certain sections of the society or certain sections of the traders, what this is about and how the FDI rules are not enough to tackle the situation as of now, why the policy framework is being thought of as a weaker one in India. So these things will be looked into in this editorial. And then you have the Mahathir's surprise, the Malaysian elections, I told you earlier, the front page item. And then you have, it's not about the nuclear deal. This one talks more about what Trump is thinking and what the European nations are thinking. Are they on the same page, or are they on the different pages here? It's just the thought process which goes into the entire withdrawal, or what both sides have to say, what Iran thinks about it, what the US thinks about it, what the Europeans think about it, and what does India stand. India did make a statement, two-line statement. What is it all about, right? Pokhran 2, 20 years later, I would suggest you to just read through it, right? It talks about the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. It talks about Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. So just take a look into this, right? So I'll be going to the details of this that is your Flipkart deal, Mahathir's surprise, and the nuclear deal. And going further, see on this page, the news page, there is not much to talk about. Again, it's about the Flipkart deal and India studying effect of US withdrawal from Iran deal. So that we'll be looking into from the editorial itself. So what I've done is at various points you have the Flipkart and the Walmart deal and the Iran deal, right? Two different topics at different places from various sections in the newspaper. I have clubbed it all together, and you will find all the relevant details at one place. See, this is not required. We have dealt with Nepal quite a bit in detail yesterday. And then you have, can BJP arrest Karnataka from Congress? Again, this is political in nature, faith and diplomacy not required, right? And then you have the world news. US supports Israel's right to self-defense. This is about the Israel has attacked from the first page. We saw that Israel has attacked the Iranian forces, Iranian intelligence forces, and US has said yes, it can very much do so, given that Iran is just infringing on the defense of US. So given that scenario, US is supporting it. So what is the reason behind US going back on the deal? Why is it showing a lot of support for Israel? We'll take a look into it. And then Mahathir breaks Malaysia's political status quo. Again, the details of which will be given there. Trump-Kim summit on June 12th. This is something significant. And we'll just have a teaser of how things are going to work out for Trump-Kim summit. At the start of the lead itself, there was a mention of this. There was a good prophecy, or so as to say, what would happen if this deal does go on proper lines, right? This is not required, and not much. And this one, it is about Walmart again, and that I have included in your editorial part itself. So let's start with the online retail flip. So that's the first editorial. So India's e-commerce market is not more than a tenth of its overall retail opportunity. You have retail shops everywhere, but the online presence is also much. There is a lot of interconnectivity today, yet not many people prefer to buy online because they have their own reservations. They cannot lay hands on the true item So for that reason and many other reasons, the digital connectivity and also the digital trust is not as much as it is there in the Western countries. Probably because of all this, you do not have a lot of share e-commerce market. You do not find much in the retail business. So it's only 10th. And secondly, it also speaks about, the editorial speaks about, selling 77% of the controlling stake to Walmart. So Walmart is an American giant, American supermarket giant, and you have to remember it is a multi-brand retail business. That is here Walmart. So it was more of a brick and mortar. That is, you had the physical retail market. So that's what this Walmart was about. It was not online. On the other hand, Flipkart was e-commerce market. That is here, it was an online business. So what's this all about? So Walmart has bought 77%, and what it does see is it is going to see the future prospects of Indian market. So India, as I said, it is only 10th of the overall retail opportunity as of now. There's a lot of room to expand. For this reason, Walmart sees an opportunity here. So Walmart is not coming to India for the first time. It came to India a decade ago, and it started a joint venture with Bharti. So with Bharti, it started a joint venture, and a few years with the joint venture, its supermarket chain did not work out well. So it did come out of the joint venture. In fact, it had seen some losses. That is Walmart. Now, what is this problem with the selling of shares or selling of stakes to Walmart by Flipkart? The problem is that we have a very strict curb on foreign direct investment in multi-brand retail sector. This is for the physical multi-brand retail sector. That is, Walmart cannot open its shops, right, with more than 49% share. Right, its original domain is brick and mortar. It cannot open the physical shops, right, on its own. That is why it had entered a JV. So FDI, foreign direct investment, it is a way of investing, right? The other way of investing is a foreign portfolio investment. It comes in the form of shares, that is equity and debt. However, this comes in the form of ownership. FDI comes in the form of ownership. True ownership, right? So anything that comes in the form of more than 10% for a company, that would be considered as FDI. If the share is more than 10% from a foreigner, it is considered as FDI. So a restriction was 49% in multi-brand retail sector. Now, on the other hand, for e-commerce, right? For e-commerce, there is no such restriction. So you can invest 100%. So for example, we have Amazon. Amazon, is an online service, online e-commerce market. So it provides, it has 100% ownership in India. So the contender, Amazon, also has plans to expand its business from online to retail now, right? That is physical retail. So brick and mortar plus e-tail model. That's what it is looking for. So the thing is, for Walmart, it has brick and mortar, but it is not allowed. So it is buying out your Flipkart, and now it will be in a position to open up the brick and mortar outlets, because it's already established the online, it also already has the online presence through which FDI is allowed. So using the profits of the online business, it is going to open the brick and mortar retail stores. So this is something Amazon has planned to do. The same thing will be done by your Walmart as well. That is what it plans to do. However, this all looks rather shady. It looks shady because in true sense, the FDI rules do not allow either Amazon or Walmart to open the brick and mortar stores completely on their own in India. That's the problem we have. What does it show? It shows the inefficacy of India's approach to retail FDI, right? So what does the government have to do? The government has to probably update the policy, right? The local lobbies, local traded lobbies, as well as some Swadeshi advocates are saying that this deal is not a good deal just because, it might put the local traders out of the business, right? For this reason, it's not a good deal. For now, it is a small coterie of people coming together and they are protesting against the deal, but probably it might grow into a big one. Now, what can you conclude from this? It is time to nuance the debates that have dominated India's retail FDI policy, big versus small, local versus foreign, to create a truly level playing field where all can compete without artificial safeguards that can be overcome via such deals. So, what you have to do, you have to put a proper policy in place, and you have to provide an environment where the small as well as the big firms, local as well as the foreign firms, can truly compete with each other. There has to be a level playing field. Instead of erecting artificial safeguards around which these companies, the large companies, can find a way around, instead of having such safeguards, bring in policy changes which are rather true to their nature, and they provide such a judicious environment for all the players, right? That's what the editorial speaks about. The second editorial is about Mahathir's surprise. So Mahathir Mohamad, he's a 92-year-old veteran who won the Malaysian Prime Ministerial poll this time around. Again, it is said to be a win for democracy. The significance of this, very election is that the outcome has the power to spur democratic movements across Southeast Asia, where you have, one-party rule or the military, prominence, or you find in most of the South Asian nations where either you have the military regimes or you have one-party rules. So this is a good thing, given that in the coming year and this year, elections are due in most of the countries. So for that reason, the outcome of this election is something which is really, really significant. So what was this election all about? It was about two parties, right? One was the opposition party, that is Pakatan Harapan, Alliance of Hope. It was headed by Mahathir. He was a part of this political party. And there was another party, United Malays National Organization. This was headed by outgoing Prime Minister Najib Razak. So this is Mr. Mahathir, and this is Mr. Najib Razak. So look at this, he's having the last laugh, right? That we can see that, right? So what happened here? Just before the election, Mr. Najib Razak, resorted to certain tactics, as well as he appealed to the people using, threats, or so as to say, using coercion, sometimes appeals, right? What did he all do? So he tried to put before people the overall economic track record his government had. That is one thing. In fact, his economy was doing well. That is one thing he propounded. Secondly, he put stringent curbs on media freedoms. Thirdly, he did meddle with the electoral constituencies so that his party members get majority in most of the constituencies. He the delimitation part, when it comes to constituencies, he made it in such a way that his party gets more seats and rather easily. And then he made promises of generous handouts, that is subsidies and such. So despite this, he lost the election. For this, you have to understand a background, right? What is the background for this? Mr. Muhammad, right? This person, Mahathir, Ahmad Mahathir, had helped find the UNMO, the party which is going out of power, headed by Razak. So he was the one who helped found UNMO. He did come to power from 1981 to 2003, that is Muhammad. And in 2009, he handpicked Mr. Razak for the big post, and he handed over the power to this person. However, he was not happy with, that is Muhammad was not happy with Razak for his alleged involvement in a multi-dollar embezzlement scam, right? So what is this embezzlement? Tricking or cheating a company and taking away the money. So that is an embezzlement. So something which is not due to you, you take that money away. So in that scandal he was involved. This was an alleged scandal. So Muhammad was a very moral person. His stature in public was rather high. He was known for grandstanding on Asian values of collective well-being over the West's emphasis on individual rights. So he was an epitome, so as to say, he was a person who was exemplary when it comes to the values, the human values and the Asian values. He enjoyed, a sort of, a moral authority in the public. That was one reason. Second, the scandal, right? The scandal, Razak scandal, and that was the second thing. So these two put together, right, and his nationalist credentials gave the opposition the momentum it had long sought. And as soon as Mr. Muhammad joined the ranks of opposition, it became really, really easier to throw out this old protege of Mr. Muhammad, right? And now that Mr. Razak is out, Muhammad probably will not cling on to prime ministership. Instead, he is going to hand it over to some other person from the opposition, right? Okay, so here is Malaysia, the capital here. You have Singapore here, right? So Kuala Lumpur, Singapore, and then you have Indonesia here, and this is also Indonesia. And then you have Brunei here, right? Philippines here, Vietnam here, and then Thailand here, and you have South China Sea, right? Now islands, okay. So you have to remember these from the geographical point of view. Okay. Next. The next topic is that of the Iran deal. It's not about the nuclear deal per se. Geopolitics do come into play in this entire lead article. So to start on a positive note, the article does speak of what would be the outcome of the South Korea-North Korea deal and what it portends for the deal, that is the Iranian deal. So US, China, South Korea and North Korea, all these countries are trying to denuclearize the Korean peninsula. That's what they are trying to do. The possible outcome would be a joint comprehensive plan of action on the similar lines of what happened with Iran. So this was the plan of action, that is JCPOA, Jacob War. So this was the one which was signed between P5+1 countries and Iran. A similar agreement is in the offing, and it would eventually lead to a peace treaty formally ending the Korean War. So the Korean War, which ended in 1950s, right? So it did not end in a formal way. So what was signed was an armistice. So never was a peace treaty signed. Probably now, by the signing of JCPOA, a peace treaty would follow as well, and this would ensure a Nobel Peace Prize for all the countries involved, that is US, China, South Korea and North Korea. Probably all of these people would get a peace prize. What is stopping these countries from getting a peace prize? So the article points that probably it would be Iran which would be standing in the way of these countries to get a peace prize, right? Why does it say so? It says so because the real tacit objective, or the real objective, right, which is hidden when it comes to US behind pulling out from the deal, the Iran deal, is something different. What it tries to do, what US wants to do, or its objective, is the regime change in Tehran. It wants to change the regime in Iran. That's what it wants. That's the real objective of US. Why does it want to change? For one, Israel and Saudi Arabia, the long-standing, right? You have Israel here, it comes here, and then you have Saudi Arabia. So Israel and Saudi Arabia for long have been allies of US, and they do not want Iran to get stronger, right? In fact, recently Iranian President Ahmadinejad has made particularly provocative statements about Israel. So Israel is not happy, Saudi Arabia is not happy. Saudi Arabia will never be happy. Why? Because Iran is a Shiite country and Saudi Arabia is a Sunni country. So it will never be happy. So given this, US also was under pressure to take a stand which was rather inimical towards Iran. So this is the real objective, to change the regime in Iran. In fact, to help Trump's decision, or so as to say, to realize Trump's objective, things are working for Trump itself, we can say. What we are seeing recently is the media, the Western media, is putting out news items which say that large-scale demonstrations and protests are going on by Iranian people against the regime. For what reasons? For one, the living conditions are difficult. Why? The economic conditions are not getting any better even after signing the JCPOA. The JCPOA, as I told you, was signed between Iran and the P5+1 countries, according to which the P5 is the powerful 5 countries of UN, the members of UN Security Council, the permanent members, and +1 is Germany. So what was this deal all about? The deal was that under the JCPOA, Iran is going to open up its sites, nuclear facilities, for inspection by IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency. Apart from that, it also said that it is going to stop enrichment of uranium beyond a certain grade, or which could be used for only civilian purposes. It would not enrich the uranium for weapons grade, right? That was also promised. And also it would throw open all the sites so for which were being seen with skepticism by the Western world, Israel and every other country. So this was all promised under JCPOA, and the promise by P5+1 countries was that they are going to lift the sanctions. Sanctions were imposed on Iran, where Iran was not able to trade with other countries properly. Why? Because these countries had put the sanctions. They asked the other countries not to trade with Iran, and Iran also was not allowed to trade with other countries. So this was the situation. Now JCPOA, after signing JCPOA, it was expected that economic gains will be made by Iran. Not much gains were made, and inflation is getting higher. The Iranian rial is depreciating by the day. It has reached 75,000 rial per $1, and there is this news of massive corruption as well as economic inequality everywhere. So this is the problem Iran is in. So there is a different calculation by Mr. Trump. The European economies, the rest of the countries for that matter, of the P5+1 who have signed the JCPOA, all the other 5 countries think that going back on the deal is not something which is going to help. All you'll be doing is you'll be creating another nuclear member in this world, right? So that's not a good thing. So in fact, Iran has not reneged on any promise it has made. It has opened up the sides, and it is not doing anything which is harsh, or so as to say anything which goes against the deal. So given this, all these countries had to respect the JCPOA, but US, as I said, it has different calculations. So Trump personally does not like Iran, and he's under pressure from Israel and Saudi Arabia as well. So given all these things, he has a different calculation. What is this different calculation we are talking about? He wants to tap on this discontent. His final objective is, of course, to get this regime out of place. So he wants to tap on this discontent. How? With time, right? If US withdraws from this deal, it has already withdrawn. So now sanctions would be reimposed. Once the sanctions are reimposed, the economic situation of Iran is going to get worse. You might argue that the European countries will still continue to trade with Iran, but you also know that US has the levers of power. After a period of time, the European nations will fall in line with US, and they are going to stop supporting Iran, and the sanctions on Iran will be full-fledged. Once sanctions on Iran are full-fledged, the economic situation of Iran is going to get worse by the day, and discontent will increase and people will come to streets. This is what just happened in 1979 Iranian Revolution. So you had a very strong nationalistic Shah regime then. So it was a monarchy then. Even that monarchy was shook, and democracy was installed in Iran. So the Iranian Revolution of 1979, which we are talking about, involved the overthrowing of one dynasty called the Pahlavi dynasty, which was under the leadership, or which was under Muhammad Reza Shah Pahlavi. He was supported by the US, and it was replaced by the Islamic Republic under Ayatollah Khomeini. He was the leader of the revolution, and the revolution was supported by a wide range of people, including various Islamist and the leftist organizations and student movements. So Trump wants to recreate that 1979 revolution, where the revolution then was against the US backup regime. Now he wants to get a regime again which has US support, or which dances to US tune. The present regime is not dancing to US tune, at least according to Mr. Trump. What we can see on the positive side is the maturity of diplomacy from the Iranian side. Iran has shown restraint. It has not given any knee-jerk reaction to what Mr. Trump has done. It has not declared that the deal from which US has withdrawn is dead. It has not said it is dead, nor it has announced any immediate resumption of its nuclear program. So Iran has just said that it is going to consult other signatories of JCPOA, and it is going to talk about it only in the weeks to come about the further action. What about the geopolitics in the area? Probably with the withdrawal from the deal, the Iranian government is not happy, will not be happy, of course, and probably it is going to lend more support to Bashar al-Assad regime and Russia and Hezbollah, which actually gained some foothold in Lebanon recently, Hezbollah. So these are going to support Iran, and the Bashar al-Assad regime is only going to get stronger, and the Houthi rebels in Yemen, who are supported by Iran, will be more emboldened to take on the Saudi Arabia led coalition in Yemen, and probably again Iran will lend more support to Houthi rebels now. So Iran will also more directly intervene in Iraq, and it will cause the Afghanistan peace process to become much more difficult. So this is the geopolitical angle. right? All we can say is, if you treat Iran in an improper manner, right, it was only getting better by the day. If you now treat it in a bad way, probably it is going to play the spoil sport. So that's what is going to happen in this area, right? What is India's position when it comes to this? Say, India has established a special relationship with Israel and its Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and intimate relationships have grown between US and India as well in the recent past. In fact, India is a country which cannot be so easily brushed aside by both US and Israel. Why? Because these countries want to sell expensive military hardware to India. In fact, India imports a lot of, in fact, it is the highest importer of military hardware in the world. So under these circumstances, India has made a well thought out statement, right? A two-sentence statement on the Trump decision. One, it tries to strike a balance between what Iran's rights is. That is, Iran has, the right to develop the nuclear energy for peaceful purposes, and it remains incumbent on the international community to see that the program remains strictly peaceful, right? It talks about Iran's right in the first place. Secondly, it also speaks about, what American decision is all about. The American decision somehow spells out that it is going to withdraw from the negotiations. It is going to withdraw from the deal. That is one. And secondly, the American statement also says that it is not keeping the military intervention out of question. That is, it is going to use military power if the need be in Iran. That's what it says. So the second statement by India gives a tacit or an implicit disapproval of American decision against strong military action. So that's what the second statement says. So on one hand, it is saying that Iran has the right. On the other hand, it warns US not to use the military action, right? Now the big question before India is US really reliable to develop intimate relationship with? So this is a big question, but when you look at the whole picture, you can say that Mr. Trump's actions in the recent past has been nothing but to go against all the achievements by his predecessor. For example, you have the Obamacare, that is the medical insurance thing, and secondly, you have the North American Free Trade Agreement. So the Trump administration, pulled out of that deal as well. TPP, it was really, really huge, and this was about the Pacific Rim countries. So US pulled out of it as well, and the Paris Agreement, this is about the global common, that is climate change, and he pulled out of that as well. And now JCPOA, these were all achievements by the Obama administration. He has gone against each one of them. So India has to be rather vigilant while dealing with this particular administration, and it would not be prudent to assume that it is a special case. Each of these cases are big, and he has gone against each of these particular cases, right? So what is the fallout for India? What would be the possible fallout? One, the energy imports from Iran will become more difficult, and they are going to become expensive. In all likelihood, the fuel prices are going to go up. The Reserve Bank of India might have to increase the interest rates, which is going to contain inflation. But again, it would probably lead to less credit growth. Less credit growth means less GDP growth. Why? Because less spending, less investments. So this is going to be a problem, and the RBI might also have to come in to check the falling rupee value, right? So as and when the inflation goes up, probably the rupee's value also is going to depreciate. To check that, the RBI might have to involve itself in the sterilization measures. So all this might have a direct bearing on politics, given that the government was beneficiary of low fuel prices in the last 3 to 4 years. So now the government will really be put in the box. Why? Because the prices are set to rise again. They have already started to climb up. Now they are going to become much more costlier, right? So given the situation, so the government has to take the steps rather prudently now, right? So this is the article, this is the lead, right? I think that's about it for the day. Thank you and have a beautiful day. Do remember you like the video so that we can reach out to more people. All right. Thank you. Have a beautiful day once again.